call a regular meeting of the town council to order for 7 o'clock on Thursday the 10th. As you can see, this meeting is being held in person. It can be viewed on local cable channel 1303 or on the internet by accessing the town website at bucksportmaine.gov, clicking on watch meetings and selecting town council. Questions or comments may be submitted during the meeting by emailing slassard@bucksportmaine.gov or during the meeting by calling 307-8030. A couple reminders, it'd be a great time to make sure your cell phones are silent, and just a reminder that if you are going to speak, please come to the podium, and that we do have a new sound system and it picks up everything, including whispers. I think that's all the housekeeping. Roll call. George, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Mark Eastman.
Here.
Councilor Jennifer Tarian.
Here.
Councilor Tracy Hare.
Here.
Mayor Paul Bissonnette.
Here.
Councilor Paul Rabs.
Here.
Councilor Steve Bishop.
Here.
Councilor Ed Rankin.
Here.
Thank you, George. Presentation of any town council recognitions. We do not have any this evening. Consider the minutes of previous meetings. Our regular meeting minutes from March the 27th, 2025 were sent out. I assume everyone's had a chance to read those. Questions?
Actually two really small things, but one is the presentation that I spoke about that's on April 30th is at the Klein Auditorium, which is at the middle school. It's marked as Miles Lane or elementary.
Yep, I'll update those for you.
Thank you.
And then we noticed that the meeting that says the 10th should be the 17th for
Okay.
the
Budget meeting.
budget.
The 17th.
Good catch. Thank you. Anyone else? How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved.
Second.
Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We have 3 items of correspondence to review this evening. We have Verona Island police calls from March the 14th, 25th, and 31st. We also have the Down East Transportation Ridership Report for March, and we have the departmental reports for March. Those were all included with your packets as well. Any questions on any of those? Thank you. We do not have any ordinances to consider or introduce this evening. We do have one discussion item that is on the agenda, and that's a report from the Finance and Investments Committee.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee met just before this meeting. We elected a chair, so I'll be the chair of the Finance Committee, and we moved a recommendation to Town Council to approve a request to purchase a Freightliner plow truck for the next plowing season.
Wonderful. That is on the agenda in just a few minutes. Anything else?
No, and that was it.
We have 4 items on the agenda this evening for. You want to do that now? Sure. We can do that under discussion items now then. Should we have a motion to amend the agenda? Yes.
Make a motion to amend the agenda. Second.
Motion and seconded to amend the agenda to discuss the playground. Further action on the playground. All those in favor?
I apologize that this item was not included on the agenda. Our economic development director had sent out some information in regard to this, and I missed getting it on the agenda.
Hello. You should have received an email from me last Friday in regards to a follow-up from the conversation at the last council meeting requesting the update to Ian's playground. The playground committee met this past Monday. We discussed the presentation that my intern did for the Miles Lane Student Council. Brought back the plans for the committee, reviewed everything. The committee had initially opted to go with option number 7. But after seeing the plans and the blown up plans where you can actually visualize and understand how much more of the ADA compliant play was associated with the playground, the committee voted unanimously to go with playground option number 5 as well. For those who aren't familiar with the playground, or if you haven't had a chance to see the email, Ian's Playground's located at Elm Street. It's in honor of Ian Powell, who unfortunately passed away The playground has been there for 20 years and it serves as a memory for Ian. Ian's parents are in attendance tonight, Gene and Hugh Powell, and they've been part of the playground committee as well. When Tim Emery oversaw the recreation department, the Powells were also involved with when the fence was added after the fact and anything related to the playground. So we do have some other members in attendance tonight that were on the committee. If you can see here, this is a ramped playground. This playground would help with mobility issues for whether you're in a wheelchair, walking sticks. If you had an unfortunate injury and you were on crutches, Bangor is the only other playground in the vicinity with a playground like this. It's located at the Mansfield Sports Complex, right next to the skate park, and you park in the parking lot. They have millings and fillings, something that we had talked about earlier, to get out of the playground, out of the parking lot. But the entire playground there is covered in wood chips, so there's no paths like what was discussed at ours. Assistant Town Manager Jacob Grand had gone up, and then my intern and I went back up as well to take some better pictures and get a better understanding of what they have up there. Bangor has a policy that every 15 years is how the warranties work, so they refresh theirs. They have a new one they're refreshing this year. And there are different play options with this. So we've talked about flipping where the entrance would be so that we could have the compliance coming through. This morning I had the opportunity to speak with the Public Works Director, and we talked about something else that we may be able to do as well to get the height of the playground up to the height of the driveway. Simply take the equipment out of there and put about a foot or so of gravel, and then you work from there. So you got some games here, you have some Braille, a lot of the options that are available with the playground will help people with sensory, auditory, tactile, and really will work out for kids with any type of learning, mobility that they may be going through at that point, all while keeping fun for neighborhoods. If I'm going to number 2 here, here's another view a little bit closer up. There's a game over here that's like Connect 4, it's called Connect 3. A fidget board, a sensory fidget board, Braille lock, on the other side, Braille alphabet. This is a sensory wave climber. So it's not very high off, but it's supposed to also help for people with mobility issues to be able to climb up here. If they're not wheelchair bound, it helps with that for them as well. And then they have a slide here. There's a steering wheel option as well, the crow's nest. The one recommendation that the committee had asked was to maybe, because this one didn't have auditory on it, the drums were in number 7, is if we could make a change and add the drums there. And I did speak to the vendor, and that is a possibility to do that as well. There's a frog maze puzzle under there. There's an imaginary ask questions, and you pick a star, and the star says yes or no, sort of like a Magic 8 Ball kind of thing. So there's lots of different things for everyone to use there. And then you have the 3 other, you got the slides, another slide there, monkey bars, and then the ADA seesaw. You can have 4 kids sitting in a seat. You can have someone sitting in the middle. One of the most popular items, if you go to any of the newer playgrounds around Bangor, Brewer, Wilson Street, they all have the star. It would be our generation's jungle gym. And then the tire swing. Yes, we've had a tire swing in the past. The tire swings were made from a single hinge point, and those aren't happening any longer. They're making them like a traditional swing in two. So instead of being able to whip the kids around, you can still move north, south, and east, west, but not in that direct manner. It was more, it didn't last. Every time we'd have insurance coming up and looking at it, like, that's a pinch point, that's a pinch point. The rubber boot that would cover would fail, and there's 3-year warranty on objects like that. And it got to the point that both of the swings had gone beyond, and then you can't order the new ones because they now do the double instead of the single point. So this is what we're looking at here. One other request had come up towards the very end of the meeting, and I was doing some research on it. So the slide that comes through the ADA ramp, if there are children who are unable to go down the slide by themselves, this slide's a little, really fits one person. This is called a racer slide. And again, it's 4 feet off the ground. 4 feet off the ground. So what was asked if we could look into a roller slide. It's got the rolling pins. It's used. Trying to think of what to relate it to, but if you go to see somebody like a chiropractor or things like that, and I had read that there's possible pinch points and things unless you get enclosed, and Game Times isn't enclosed, so that worry is not there. Adding the drums and replacing the Eagle's Nest with the steering wheel and replacing the double slide with the roller slide would increase the project to $299,917.21. So it would be an addition of roughly $1,300 from what I had given there. So there's multiple options on the table.
Can you say that number again, please?
$299,917.21. I'm gonna run back to my office just to triple check that number again for you.
How much money did we allocate from the remaining ARPA funds to go towards that?
The request that was written was for whatever was remaining in ARPA funds. So there was a discrepancy in the amount, so the resolution was written as such that because there was a December 31st, 2024 deadline to allocate the funds to ARPA, that I wanted to make sure not one penny was left untouched.
Yep.
So it was written in the way that whatever's in that account would go to Ian's Playground. It can't be allocated anywhere else now because that deadline has passed, so it does have to go towards the playground.
And how much actually was left in that account at the time of the?
Approximately 200, a little over 200,000. The playground budget is approximately $100,000 short of what it would be necessary to do it. I believe, Jacob, that's the number that if it's 299, I think ARPA's remaining was 201 or 202 after you took out the other stuff that you had approved.
Okay.
But that is the whole.
So that's the playground in a nutshell. I'm just trying to bring that number up for Councilor Bishop. It was 15 months worth of meetings. There was a grant that was applied for through the Land Water Conservation Fund it was a 106-page grant that was declined. But to be fair, it was also in conjunction with the tennis court as well.
I wonder how Bangor solves for access to the equipment with mobility challenges. I'm just I'm not that there's a fix for that. I'm just curious how.
Well, when I spoke to Mr. Willett, he said, and we were on the phone, and it came across that what I heard was that he thought the millings went to the Ram playground, but I visualized it. We walked it. I have photos on my phone. It doesn't. It gets you from the parking lot into that area. It may have been a muddy area, a muddy path,
I see.
but as soon as you get on there, it's play chips around all of it. And there's one tiny section for 2 to 5. Then there's the 5 to 12, which this is for age range. And then there's the skate park right next to it, and that's a path as well.
Whereabouts is this going to be physically located?
On Elm Street, in the current location of Ian's Playground,
Next to superintendent's office.
right next to the superintendent's office. If you
And a
want to,
baseball.
So it's on
Baseball field.
RSU property?
no,
Town.
town
Town
property.
property.
Yes, it's in an LWCF site, so it cannot be school property.
Okay.
That location's been a playground for how long, Rich?
Before that, it was the Creative Playground, and before that, my understanding is they were 2 separate playgrounds. One that went to the elementary school, which is now the superintendent's office, and then in the current parking lot, the junior high, that's where the junior high playground was,
Basketball court.
and basketball courts. And then it was paved after, because I didn't file this yet, it's right here.
Sorry, I'm the one that always asks you for difficult questions.
No, and like I said, I've tried to recite that number, and then right before I came in, I was sending out an email with the numbers on it, so I just want to make sure that I have the pennies right.
Right to the penny, because 20 cents can throw this decision.
299, 912, 71 is the exact number,
Oops.
and I think I reversed it to 912 to 921.
So it's $97,000 short of what the,
So,
give or take, the 60 cents that Councilor Rankin and Jeff discussed.
alright. So what's your recommendation? Where do we find 97,000 to actually complete this project?
You have a recreation reserve that has money, but it would pretty much wipe it out if you utilized it. It's a recreation equipment reserve, and if you utilized that, you would pretty much wipe that account out.
Do you see any foreseeable recreation expenses in the gap between replenishing that reserve and if we were to zero balance the recreation reserve, do you foresee any things coming up that we might regret that?
Recreational reserves have been used recently to redo the Miles Lane trails, do the basketball court, put the lights at the basketball court, put the lights at the ice rink building, put a heat pump in the ice rink building, re-shingle the ice rink building, shingle the football concession stand. We've been staying on top of everything.
What's our rate of renewal for that fund annually?
Unless you appropriate to it, you don't currently have. Once upon a time, the town, when it was operating its own recreation department, the town would budget for a certain amount of revenues to come in. But it traditionally budgeted a lot less to come in than actually came in. And anything over and above the amount that they appropriated went into what was called a recreation revenue reserve.
Yeah.
And that was how they kind of fed that program. And it hasn't been fed in a while. That account's still there.
What's the
The rec-
balance?
Off the top of my head, 100 and something, 90s. It's a significant amount of money because it hasn't been touched, but it's not it's not being restocked because we no longer keep fees for anything, and because the Y keeps those fees, and we don't have fees for swimming, which is the other place we'd generate them. So if you utilize the funds, the only way to restock that at this point would be to appropriate into a reserve annually the same way you do public works and police and the ones that IT, the town office, the way you the way you do that.
And is the reserve like responsible for maintenance, or is this a sort of like rainy day reserve?
Once upon a time, in the days of the mill, the town was socking away huge amounts of money. I say huge, lots of money, because it was of little consequence to the taxpayer, because they only were paying such a small percentage of what. And over time, that, 10 years of not doing that, we've used a lot of those those funds to do the things that we've been doing, but the replenishing those reserves for the purpose of, once upon a time, they could put away sufficient to just go buy something anytime they wanted to. You don't have the valuation base anymore to be able to do that. And if you decided you were gonna set aside $70,000 towards recreation in a year, that's basically right now 10 cents on the mill rate. Okay, just $736 million was our current valuation last year. $1 on the mill rate will raise $736,000. So if you set aside 73,000, that's 10. If you think about impact to what raising money does, that's at our current valuation. And when we do budget and get into the revenue side, there's a whole lot of stuff to talk about. But for the purposes of this discussion right now, the impact of starting to do more reserving is, that's what you would base your thought process on.
Can we do an average expense out of that account for what's been spent out of it for the last 3 to 5 years and see what we actually need to generate?
That particular account has had no expenditures. The recreation revenue account has had no expenditures. The recreation equipment account has had expenditures.
Sorry, I wasn't writing fast enough. 1 mil is 700 and what thousand?
1 mil is $736,000 approximately,
Thanks.
because our valuation is 736 million of taxable valuation.
Gotcha.
So nothing's been coming out of this account and nothing's been needed from it either.
Right.
That's correct.
I have a question, a thought and a question to kind of throw out and see who, if you go to page 63 of the budget, there's a line item, you've moved the support of the Buck Memorial Library out of one account over into recreation, which is now $30,000.
That was 2 years ago. Yes, we did that.
Okay,
Yep.
so several months ago, when we had Buck Memorial in here, they spoke about, let's call that fund they have, an endowment or whatever. And I read a few weeks before that they had grown that amount from $1.5 million, and we asked them specifically in the room where they were at, and they said they were around $2 million. That's after taking out whatever they take out during the year. So to me, that's a big puddle of money, and I think I'd like to throw out the idea of taking that $30,000, not sending it to Buck this year, but putting it towards, can we do that?
Is it, Jacob, would it be more useful if we went away from this meeting and came back to the next meeting with more concrete numbers on what the reserves that you're talking about have in them, what the pattern of use has been in them? I'm uncomfortable in spitting out a lot of numbers that I don't necessarily have the.
I think it'd be more appropriate to have a resolve on your next meeting after we can look into some of the.
What the options are and whether that includes.
Is there a deadline that any delay on our end? I know some of these things, like we run you up against the wire for a clock that have the potential to hurt us. Is there a deadline that this would impact, or?
The one deadline, the one deadline that there is the use of the opera funds by the end of 2026. If those funds are not expended, you have to send it back. In full transparency, I did have someone write a grant for this in case this came up and there was hesitation. There's no guarantee, but it's $50,000. The work's all done. I just have to submit it. The only thing we run up against is the tariffs that have been levied. And since December, what I was told is that the increase in steel was 40%. Now, I was told May 1st, but that wasn't a set in stone date that they were gonna be looking at prices. It could be sooner, it could be later. So like I said, if we go over the $300,000 figure, we either have to cut back the playground or go to the voters. And this is not discouraging, these are just the facts around everything where we're at, so.
And we wouldn't have this till end of next year, where this could happen by July of this year.
Yes,
But we would need to resolve at the next meeting anyway.
Yeah.
But the next meeting is prior to May 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as it's safe, that's great, like if this.
well, I'm not saying it's safe, they said May 1st, but he didn't guarantee May 1st. So,
Yeah,
like I said, I mean, and that's hard, cause nothing could happen May 1st. Something could happen before May 1st, something could happen after May 1st.
We still have to have a resolve on this at our next meeting anyway, so there's no real.
And we could have better information overall in terms of some of these things.
And I'm not hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not hearing any philosophical opposition to any of this, it's just how we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, my goal is to make sure that we actually get this done.
Alright, I just wanna level set on expectations for everyone else here.
Correctly.
Yeah.
One that doesn't dig a financial hole that negatively hurts us. I love Sue's recommendation.
I like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that everything's correct.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
So we'll bring a resolve to the next meeting, we'll have
information and
the,
a resolve for Liz.
yep,
Great.
which we would need to have anyway, so, okay. Yep,
Thanks,
thank you.
Rich.
Thanks,
That
everyone.
doesn't mean, however, that grant application couldn't go in and couldn't
Be used for.
be used as a,
Right.
Absolutely.
to actually pay for what happens, you
Right.
know, just
I think it's
Right.
important.
just
May-
saying.
Yeah.
Can we drive down both roads at the same time? and
That's
see-
exactly
See
what
which one gets us there?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Did we have a date on the grant? Rich Lee,
He did.
We had a date,
on when it's,
he said he
When he
had it
would
done, but
know.
he didn't say when it was
Yeah.
being awarded.
Yeah, if
No,
it hasn't been submitted, it'll be a little bit, I think.
yeah.
It wouldn't, we discussed it the other night, and we wouldn't be utilizing it until next summer of 26.
Right.
If we ever got it.
the grant.
But then we couldn't use it for this.
We'd have to ask Rich, cause it depends on the grant, but some grants could be sort of paid back. I don't know who he's applying to for that. I don't know that where he's going.
There was some mention that it could be used for other, even if we couldn't use it
Yeah.
for that, it could be used for other things.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we want Rich to come back? Jacob, would you mind going?
That could be helpful.
Just let it go. He's probably spending that grant right now.
He probably,
That
that's
would not
probably gonna come
surprise
back
me
and say,
at
I just
all.
submitted it.
Hello, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right,
Are
when's
you
that?
submitting that grant or?
That grant would be, no, no.
What's the timeline on it? What's the-
The grant is due by, June 30th.
Oh, okay.
And would be awarded, if successful, in August,
So we
so
could apply to this.
the playground would be 2026 at that point, but it's 50,000, so.
Is it for new construction or like is it specifically for a newly constructed?
It's a T-Mobile hometown grant, so yeah, it's for new construction, so if you're asking, can we do the project and then use the funds afterwards, grants don't work that way.
And we run the risk of pricing going up if we wait for 2026.
There's
There's
Yeah, yes, it's what was said to, it's what's said to me, but I don't like to operate under it can, it may.
Yeah.
I rather, is it or is it not, right? But, I mean, and I understand it to give a notice, and we've also been working with the same vendor for 15 months, and we've done 8 different renderings, so.
But the
Right.
T-Mobile grant, if we already had the playground done, could be used for something else in the community. correct?
No, it's, oh, excuse, we just have to rewrite the grant for something different. It was my hopes to not use the T-Mobile grant for the playground because there's so much that needs to be done. Sound at the Bucksport Performing Arts Center, right, there's so many different things.
Okay.
Right,
Perfect.
but, I mean, pressing right now is to the community is a playground.
Yeah.
To a family, it's a memorial for their son. So in the condition that it's in right now, it's not great.
Mhm.
Stuff's gonna come out that shouldn't be there right now, whether or not the playground's gonna happen this year, because it's the safety of the kids that matter. It's the feelings of the family who go there on a daily basis to see a playground in the shape that it's in, so.
No, absolutely.
We're just
So-
debating how to make it
Yep.
happen.
Oh, no, I understand and I appreciate it. It's a tough conversation when you're dealing with what ifs.
Yep. So yeah, again, I'm back, I think I'm back, and I think the council's back, and again, please correct me if I'm misspeaking. We need to have a resolve next time anyway, so let's have the numbers in terms of how we're gonna pay for this, make sure we're clear on it. If the grant can be applied somewhere else, and we've identified a number of things, great, we'll consider that too. I'm not hearing any push to delay this project, actually, I'm hearing the opposite, so, okay, alright,
Thank you.
thanks. I think you.
Okay.
Alright, thanks. Yep.
I'm almost ready to send them this email.
Thank you, everyone. Good discussion, alright. Alright, as promised a little while ago, we have 4 agenda items this evening. The first is Resolve 2025-47 for approving the fire department CIP expenditure request of $3,184.31 for firefighter turnout gear replacement. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Resolve 2025-48, approving the employment agreement with Jacob R. Grant as town manager effective July 1st, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments?
I would just like to applaud the council for the deliberate and methodical way that we got to this point. I think everyone would be great with that.
Thank you, Councilor Bishop. I'll say something briefly and I will try to keep it brief. I know I can sometimes do the opposite. This has been a process that goes back 9 months now. When we, obviously 9 months ago, we were having conversations about the landfill and then the dam situation popped up. And just to provide a little insight into how this came about, I received 2 calls from our former deputy mayor and our now deputy mayor, indicating that, especially in town manager Lassard's last year, it would be nice to figure out a way to have the dams and landfill not be the only thing that she did in her last year here. At that point, we had a conversation. I'd had a great conversation with Jacob during the Bay Festival, and it made an impression on me how interested he still was in the town of Bucksport. Those things all coincided, and we had a conversation, as you know, to bring Jacob back as our assistant town manager, and to evaluate him over the course of the year, and for him to evaluate us. And to make a very long story short, this council has had obviously a number of conversations with Jacob, and we've reached this point. Town manager Lassard submitted her resignation at our last meeting, and we are now at a place where we are extremely comfortable. And I don't think the council will mind me saying this, unanimously comfortable in offering the position to our now assistant town manager, Jacob Grant.
And we can go back 4 years of us discussing, we need to get on our A game and get ready.
As I've now become famous for, I brought it up when I ran for reelection, not this last November, but 3 Novembers ago, and the town manager hasn't let me forget it. But it's all good-natured fun. But no, obviously Jacob worked here before, did an excellent job. We're thrilled to have him back. He has the experience of being a town manager now under his belt. Couldn't be happier for Jacob to be able to come into this role. And I think he will serve Bucksport very, very well. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have.
No, I could not be more supportive of this action by the council. You've made it clear for a long time now that you wanted a transition plan, not a cliff. You were not looking for the unknown or the, let's try out something, some faraway place that has no knowledge of this community or all that it's been through or all that it has going on at this point. And Jacob has proven himself, not just here, but I can't go to Pittsfield. They won't let me go from hiring him back. They're not happy with us, but he's committed to the community, he's respected by the staff, he's respected by the people that deal with the office, and he has the ethic to do this job in a fair and equitable manner for everyone, and those are the skills you can't teach. So I think this is a great decision on the part of the council, and he's young, he has new ideas, he's the next 10 years for the town will be 10 times better than the last 10. You're all doing a great job. You will have good people in positions to carry your policies. If you look around at other communities that have been trying to find leadership, you will know where you don't want to be because it's not been dramatically successful. But anyway, I can't be short either. But I'm very proud of the council, and I'm very proud of Jacob. He told me many years ago when I hired him to be the clerk that he wanted to be a town manager. That was his goal, and he has done everything possible to meet that goal. And
Great.
There you are.
Thank you. As we talked about last meeting, I'll sum up with this, and then Jacob, if you do want to say anything, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you're more than welcome to. If you know our town manager at all, our present town manager, her original plan was to leave in December. She's now leaving in June. I think if you are able to correlate what's happening this evening with that decision, you will understand that our town manager knows she's leaving this in good hands. So anyway, Jacob, if there's anything you'd like to say, the floor is yours.
I just want to thank you all for the trust that you're placing in me, the kind words that you've said tonight. I can't sum it up any better by saying it's a great honor for me to be able to serve this community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Questions or comments?
I just want to I just really appreciated Jacob's honesty and openness during the conversations we had with him, and just to highlight two of the big concerns of Bucksport, the landfill and the dams. There's real value in continuity of experience and knowledge, and so I just want to sort of repeat what everybody said, but just appreciate, Jacob, how transparent and open you were in our talks. And I think Bucksport will be better served having you as town manager in the next round, so thank you.
Great. What else? Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Jacob. Well, in a minute, we'll congratulate you. There is a motion and a second. We've done the question and comments. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Jacob. Yep. Round of applause for Jacob. Resolved, 2025-49, approving the Highway Department CIP expenditure request of $217,156 for a 2025 Freightliner plow truck. That is the conversation from earlier this evening, just as a reminder. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I'd just like to make sure that everyone understands that this, although this is a very large amount of money, that this has gone through our committee, and we did have lengthy discussion on it, and in order for us to continue to provide the plowing services and the current level of services that we are providing now, that this is a very important expenditure to make sure that we can uphold what everyone expects.
Agreed. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And our last resolve of the evening is 2025-50, approving the fiscal year 25-26 gas and diesel fuel pricing. Would the council like to proceed?
May I
Please
ask
do.
for, right now, we're getting daily pricing for gas and diesel, and for heating fuel quotes from our current vendor, which is the one we always end up with because every time we bid, that they're always lowest. And the way these work is the day you get the price is the day you have to lock it in. The price that's on here is the price that was the price on Monday of this week. That's not the price right now. But one day this week, it was $2.47. And what I would like the council to authorize is for us to select the lowest price of that we receive in order to because if we selected it right now, it could be higher than this by tomorrow when I do it. But if you authorize me to set the price with Dead River based on the lowest, it's the same way we do with electric pricing through Maine Power Options. You get these, you have to make a decision, or else you don't get to have that rate. By the time it gets approved, something may have changed, and over the course of the next week or so, if the price continues to do what it's done this week, which is do this, when it's here, I would like the ability to pick it.
Yep.
Because $2.40 something would put us at 50 cents less a gallon than we had last year, whereas this is 34 cents less a gallon less than last year. But so rather than a specific price, if you would modify it to authorize the town manager to lock in a price with Dead River at I hate this, it's a roulette kind of thing, but if you say this price, it isn't this price, because I don't know what tomorrow's will be, and if it's higher than this, I wouldn't want to obligate you.
I would make a motion to approve with an amendment authorizing the town manager to lock in a price at her discretion in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Motion second. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next, we do have a resignation this evening, and it's from our deputy town clerk effective May the 1st of this year, from George Dakin. Anything to add there, or?
Motion to accept. Second.
Second, any questions or comments?
We will miss you.
Yeah, certainly want to thank you, George, wish you the best.
Thank you,
Yep.
appreciate it.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Sure that's what you want?
Yep.
Alright.
Alright. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Approval of quick claims, discharges, and deeds. We do not have any, but we do have a town manager report.
We have finished the second round of contract negotiations with police and fire on Monday of this week, along with the first round with Public Works. The next round is scheduled for April 28th, and we are making progress. We have been advertising the April 26th Waterfront Cleanup Day and look forward to the event and the Guns and Hoses lunch that follows for our volunteers. A reminder that people should bring their own rakes and implements and that the town will provide garbage bags for the event. On the subject of dams, since being given authority to negotiate with Maine Water and Bucksport Generation at the last council meeting in regard to potential ownership of the Silver Lake Dam, I've had the opportunity to have initial meetings with representatives of both entities, and both meetings went very well. In addition, we have requested from Bucksport Mill LLC an outline of what the process will be for obtaining additional information from them that was not provided in their initial filing to us, and when or if they plan on setting up meetings as part of this consultation phase. And we have as yet had no response to these requests of Bucksport Mill. I was heartened by the fact that DEP testimony on bills related to the dam abandonment process indicated that the degree to which Bucksport Mill is cooperative in providing requested information will impact the department's response to their petition request. They're on record for that, which is valuable. As to the landfill, I reached out to DEP today for an update on anything related to the closure of the Bucksport Mill LLC landfill and had a discussion with Stacy Cannon. She indicated that the department continues to meet with Bucksport Mill LLC's representatives every 2 weeks and that the closure project is on schedule. The health center has reapplied for congressional directed spending grant for the purpose of expanding their dental services. The town had provided a letter of support for the previous application, which was part of a group not funded in this year. And we have provided a letter of support for their reapplication, which is for next year. Plans are for the floats to go in for the town dock and the marina on April 29th and 30th. The marina opens for business on May 15th, just a little over a month from now. If it could stop snowing, we would make sure that that can actually happen. Economic Development Director Rich Rotella, Assistant Manager Grant, and I met with representatives from Penquist today at their request so they could better understand the council's recent decision not to agree to a 30-year TIF as part of the housing project that they own. It was a good meeting, and Penquist remains committed to doing the project that they originally outlined. They will be providing information on progress thus far on what they've been doing and working to ensure that there's a better line of communication between Penquist and the town moving forward. So it was a valuable meeting, and I think it clarified a lot of things, which has been the lack of communication is sort of the root of all evil here, and so they will be working in the future towards improving it.
Wonderful.
I'm on the committee for that, and it'd be great to have a meeting with them.
They know that we're in the middle of budget right now. We outlined that perhaps a good time to come back might be the beginning of July or end of June, because we're gonna get through the budget process before we added much more to the plate.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the town manager? Okay. I am not aware of any public hearings or the need to hold any public hearings or approval of any licenses or permits this evening. But the next item on the agenda, of course, is discussion of items not on the agenda for council and public. And we'll start with the public this evening.
Hi guys, there's a lot of people here, so this is a little nerve-wracking. I'm Julie, I'm the Center Director for Bucksport Area Childcare, just if there's some here that do not know who I am. I've just hit my year with the center as director, so I wanted to come up and do a little bit of a recap of what we've done. I have met with the mayor, Sue, and Rich, so I figured why not meet with all of you and kind of give you an update. So there's a lot of, the word magic was used recently happening at the center. We're doing a lot of internal great things with the kids, set a leprechaun trap. We didn't catch them. We had a Valentine's Day party. We did a Friendsgiving, a big Christmas party for the kids. We've done an Easter egg hunt. We're having another one come up. We've done some community events. We did a yard sale last June. We're gonna do another one this year. So if you would like to get rid of any of your stuff, let me know. We have space. I'll get a update out to everybody on the exact date. We're trying to navigate around graduation so people can attend. We did a movie in the park, the field right next to us. We had a movie night in August. We did a trunk or treat. We are currently doing a bottle drive. We're trying to get an AED machine for our building, so God forbid there's an emergency, we don't have to run across the street to the school to grab theirs. And we've raised about $560 so far from parents, staff, and the community dropping off your bottles. One of our employees, Amber, she secured a trailer for us, so if anybody has any bottles or cans that you would like to donate,
Thank you.
please bring them over.
Will do.
Once we hit that goal, we want to update some of our playground equipment. So there will always be a need. It's an ongoing thing right now, so please feel free to spread the word on that. In regards to enrollments, we are maxed out everywhere. Our toddler room is maxed out with 10, preschool and pre-K we have 19. We were able, on a smaller scale, to bring back some of our school-age program. We piloted it in February, we're doing it again for April vacation. I have no reason to think that it will not go well, so we're hoping that come summer, it will be, again, a smaller scale because we're keeping it in-house with us, so we have oversight and control, but we will have the summer age program back. And we have a wait list for all of our rooms, so things right now are looking really, really good. And I have a handout if you guys want it, just kind of highlighting everything that I can leave you with.
Thank you.
How many kids do you have on your wait list?
We have 6 for toddlers, 9 for preschool and pre-K.
Wow.
Depending on the community, potentially 30 for school age, so.
Oh, wow.
That's the big ticket item right now. We just, size of our building, we can't house all of them, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
That is all I've got. If you, questions for me?
Well, great update though, thank you, appreciate it. Don't wait another year.
It's nerve-wracking.
I can't promise what we'll do with crowds.
Scarier than children?
Yes.
Because I'm more afraid of children
Oh,
than I am
goodness, no.
council.
And I don't care about the cameras. If I can't see you, it's fine. It's just, oh, the eyes on me.
Thank you. Anything else from the public? Anything from the council? All right. Upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignment and scheduling of committee meetings. Before our next meeting, do we need any committee meetings?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not before, but sometime mid-May, the skate park would like a meeting with the infrastructure committee, with the RSU, with as many people as we can get into the room, I guess.
In terms of the scheduling of that, because everybody's, do we want to try, aim for the, before the first meeting? Well, let me make sure I'm clear. Do we want to do it before a council meeting?
I would think so.
Okay, so do we want to try to do that before our first one, or would our second
That's
one?
the second Thursday in May is your first regular council meeting. You have
I
a
would think,
budget meeting the Thursday before that.
Yeah,
I would think that'd be the second one in May to get the budget, the
Pretty much.
preliminary
So the
budget.
second
like
council
six
meeting
o'clock
in
that
May.
night.
What's the 20th? Is that the 29th?
It's
22nd.
22nd.
So 5/22 at 6 p.m. 6 early enough?
I would think so.
Okay.
thank you. Anything else? All right. The next item on the agenda is budget review. I was aiming for 7:45, but that's okay, we did all right. The first group we're speaking with, in review of the town budget, unless the town manager would like to add anything, is fire EMS. Is there anything you wanna say before we dig in?
First, the majority of this budget, I've consulted, but the majority of this budget has been put together by Jacob and Rachel in consultation with the departments. I've been a participant, but the driver of this budget has been Jacob. And so he's gonna give you a little background on what the overview things are on some of this before we start.
Yep, we just wanted to go over just some big picture items, that was all. As far as budget books are concerned, how they are structured, they're structured in a way that each department has a summary page, which is what you're all used to, and then following that is a line by line itemization of what that department is made up of. At one of your last meetings, you requested to see where we started versus where we ended up. And so the initial request column was basically the first budget that we received from the department head, or it was where we started internally. And then the manager column represents our recommendations based on some of the discussions that we have had as a follow-up to that. So you can see kind of where some adjustments were made. As you can see, we started off with a 13% increase, which is considerable. It was just shy of $1 million. And after our adjustments, we have recommended a budget of 6.85%. And we wanted to give just an overview of what that 6.85% is made up of. 34% of that, or $200,000, is paving. It's reincorporating paving back into the budget. 176,000 of it, or 30%, is wages. It's cost of living adjustments, it's step increases, and it's also the addition of one employee, the facilities director position. And I did want to point out that obviously we're right in the middle of union negotiations, and those negotiations are not reflected in the budget that we have presented to you. So it's likely that that wage line will look different when this is all said and done. Insurance and benefits, that's always a big one. I know that our premiums went up 4% on average, but that's an increase there. Capital improvement plan was 50,000, or 8%, which was incorporating the payment on the new ambulance back into that. That funding level is back where it was a couple of years ago. And then just some miscellaneous other line items. So you'll note that revenue figures aren't included in your budget books. We're waiting on numbers from the audit before we go into that, because that really determines where our reserve levels are and how much we can pull from those reserves, if anything. So we want to have those kind of more concrete before we try to make a recommendation there. So that's kind of the big picture of it all. I want to thank, obviously, Town Manager Lassard and also Finance Director Wilson. There were many meetings, many questions, many back and forths getting us to this point. So with that, I will turn it over to Director Gagan.
Thank you, Jacob.
I should probably start by apologizing. It's never a good idea to step in front of your new boss that was just sworn in and try to start before he did, so I apologize up front for that.
You still have the old one for a few more years.
Well, I've got bosses everywhere.
You're just swimming
I'm
around.
surrounded.
You're in trouble.
Okay, I will go down through this. What I'm gonna do this year is I am not gonna cover the 0% increases. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. As Town Manager to be Grand just explained, we have had several meetings. And I will say that they have been very productive meetings. They have not been easy meetings, but they've been productive to try to reach the goals that the council has set forth for all of us, really. So starting with the fire budget, I will go down through and I explain this every year on the left side. You will see that there are numbers, excuse me, of 01, 02, 03, all the way down through. The 511, just so you know, that's the fire EMS budget. Every budget has a number to the left, and that constitutes which budget we are looking at. So if we start with the 01 and the 02 accounts, the first two numbers, you can see the numbers there on the 01 account. We've proposed 5.2%. This is due to new certification and proposed wage increases, depending on the union negotiations on the wage increases. But in the fire EMS department, as you know, everyone we hire is not a paramedic. We serve the public at a paramedic license. So everyone that is hired at some point in their contract has to get that paramedic license. I will say that in the past year or two, we have been doing very well. The personnel on the fire side has been doing very, very well in their classes. And some of that increase, along with the 02 account at the 10.09%, is because of certifications and classes that they are getting. And again, they are doing very well. Some are starting at EMT, some have taken bridge courses, some have gotten their paramedic license earlier than we thought, which is a good thing for the citizens when we're showing up their house. So that kind of explains the 01 and the 02 line. And that's why those are where they're at with wages and certification updates. So the 03, what we've done there, you can see that is at 2.47%. The long and the short is that we've taken the number is like a 4 to 5 year average. And that is a very interesting line because we've gone back and forth with that because the call members and the per diem members that mean a lot to that organization for the fill-in of the fourth position to be able to take 2 rigs and a fire truck and all that are included in that. And we did take an average of that, cut that back substantially to where we think it's going to be, and that's where we come up with the 2.47%. Training payroll, you'll see a 24% reduction proposed there. The major thing with that is we cut the number of people, an average of the number of people showing up at trainings, and the number of people and the call people that we have, and it's basically we cut the number of people on each line. The next one that is not zero is a chief's expense. We cut that completely. The reasoning for that is to try to help out to get to where we want the budget to be overall. And we will deal with that on an ongoing basis with the last budget you'll see tonight, which is the administration budget. The 24 line is training expense. You'll see a major decrease there. All the lines there were decreased due to basically the low hiring that we've been at, due to having proper staffing is what that is, and call members. We don't have much of a call department anymore. We do have some, but that number has decreased over the years. The 32 account, which is a software account, we had a WASP barcoding system that we had that cost money, and we're not using that anymore, so we cut that out of the budget. Small equipment, 41 line, we went through that and reduced every line that we could in that, so you'll see almost an 8% decrease in that line. The 51 line, equipment, maintenance and repairs, there is a small increase in that just due to every department is different, and you're gonna find that fire trucks and ambulances are a lot more to repair than a police cruiser, so parts have gone up, so there is a small increase there. The 61 line, which are telephones, we readjusted that line, took out some costs in there that we found to try to make that proper. The 72, which is a fuel, that's adjusted by the town, and you just went over that with the town manager. The miscellaneous line, you'll see a cut there of 37%. That's just decreasing line by line. ALS backup, that was adjusted to an average. And the last line, which is collections, was reduced by 33%. With this budget up front, it's looking at a proposed 3.37% increase.
Thank you, Director Gagan. Any questions for Director Gagan on this?
Oh, go ahead.
First, I'd just like to acknowledge the fact that you cut the chief's expense out completely. I'm well aware that that expense is usually used to fill gaps that are not funded to begin with in any piece that doesn't have any money. So I acknowledge what that's gonna do to your department, but I appreciate that. Also the training expenses and the training payroll. Obviously financially, we gotta get where we gotta be, and training seems to be a place that always gets cut, but outside of the numbers, do you have any sort of overall plan to supplement any of the potential loss of training? Any sort of online or internal program or anything like that?
I don't suspect that there'll be any less training. The way that was done was basically the number of people that are showing up and the average of the cost of training due to years past when we had a few more people and they show up at all the training. So I don't suspect that we still have to have our EMS trainings. They still have to get their points every month to keep their licenses, things of that nature. So it will be an experiment to see what happens, but at this point, we've never done it, and I'm not that concerned about that yet. Next year, I may come back and say, it didn't work.
Okay.
But I don't know, because we've never done this.
Chief Denning has a.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Like I said, this is a joint effort, so if you guys wanna.
So with that concern, I totally agree. However, we have a grant through the town for training and the courses. So we're able to utilize that and reduce that line. So I don't think there'll be an issue on not having money for training. I think we're gonna be fine, but the excellent question. Thank you.
It's $1,200 per employee
Yes.
per calendar year.
Oh, that's good.
And they've extended it to 2027.
And she's very good about emailing us to get her the
Yeah.
bill so that she can
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
bills. So,
Thank you.
yes.
Finance Director Wilson's the one who found and implemented that program that gives the training opportunities, so.
Just for instance, the two or three of us that just are trying to get the trilogy through the FBI that just went to that class, she paid for out of that grant, so it didn't cost us any money. So it was good.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question and then a request. On line item 02, in 24 and 25, we were trending down on the overtime number, and then we're going back up. But is this, I listened to the scanner continuously on police and fire, and now it seems that ambulance 3 is out quite a bit. Is it just a ramp up of the number of calls and 3 ambulances and 25% of our tax-paying population are seniors like myself? I mean, are we driving the numbers? We were going down, now we're going back. We've added more staff.
Right. I think it has to do with a combination of everything. The more staff, the more calls, proposed wage increases. And then you have to go back to the people who've got all new certifications making more money. And when they work overtime, that's more money. So it's a combination of everything combined here, really.
Okay. Then my request is, while we're on this page, has to do with, we're talking about money going out now. I want to talk about some money coming in. And I'll cite you this one example on the TV news just several weeks ago or a couple months ago. They had Caribou Fire and EMS on, and their fire and EMS services I've got some notes, have implemented a rate increase. They serve 5 communities up there. Here in Bucksport, we serve Verona Island with fire and EMS services, and over in Orland, we have ambulance services. So continuing on, what they found up in Caribou is their council, they discussed having a rate increase from 10 to 25%, and they landed on 15% increase. They were charging $100 per capita for EMS coverage only, and that has gone up 15%, and they'll now be paying $150, that municipality will be paying $115 per capita. What they did on those communities that require fire and EMS, they were charging $125 per capita. Now up to 15% would be at $143.75 per capita. And then the big thing, driving the increase, and which is why I wanted to bring it up now, they cited the cost of operation, EMS supplies, licensing. I mean, it has to do with things that are line item number 37, 38. You mentioned the paramedic licenses. It all adds up, and it's going up. So, and they going forward, they said they were going to revisit the rates every year. So what I'd like to ask, if you haven't done so already, is take a look at what we are charging these two communities. I don't know if we're still living in a Roger Raymond, some sort of formula environment, or whether we charge per capita, but that's a revenue source. I'm not trying to gig these communities, but they have to pay their fair share. We're seeing increases for all the reasons I just rattled off. And I'd like to see if we could investigate where we're at, when the last time they got an increase, if any, and go forward from there.
That is actually in the many meetings we've had that has been discussed with all of us. So that is coming. I'm not sure about this year, but it will be coming to see where we're at next year.
Well, you know, we'll be talking about the marina. They hadn't had an increase in 3 years, and they only went up 5%. And I just raised my hand and said I didn't think it was enough, and I
That was
just wanna-
discussed
I
in
just
our
wanna
meetings
see.
for sure. The formulas and the per capitas and.
The formula used and all that process that's been in place for ever.
Mhm.
Well, since before I.
It's
been what
forever.
we've-
It's been forever.
I've only been 10 years, but it was before that it was.
Well, I'm not disputing
done. No, I'm
what
just saying that
formula or per
the-
capita is, just when did we make an adjustment, you know?
Staff, well, it's adjusted annually, but it's
Yeah.
based on this formula,
Yeah.
and whether that formula is still pertinent is a question that's
Yeah.
gonna need review by a committee and then discussions with other communities to give them time to make changes too. So the process, not an event, it's in the notes for what comes next. That's part of that. It's just that we recognize that the way in which that formula has worked hasn't changed when the structure of the department has changed. So yes, that is a.
That's fair.
It's a
Thank
good thought, for sure.
Good question.
Yes.
One more question for me, okay, maybe not, but there might be another one. How many vehicles are assigned to the fuel on this particular portion of the budget, the vehicle fuel? And I understand this is the fire and EMS, so is this the fire trucks, ambulances, and the assistant chief's car
Yes.
that's on this line?
Yes.
Okay, and that's
Of course, some are diesel, some are gas, and it's all.
how many vehicles is that?
Oh, let me see.
Count them up, DC Denny.
3 ambulances, a pickup truck, a rescue truck, a ladder truck, 3 engines. You also have for miscellaneous, you have a UTV and a boat and my vehicle.
12,
12 or 13, I was thinking.
if you count the UTV and things as vehicles.
Right.
And are the regulations still in place for, I probably should know this, but I don't, is everything still in place for driver training, for sign-offs and everything, time?
Yes. Absolutely.
Wheel time required?
Yeah, so we just redid that policy and stuff within the last year or so we did the book and all that stuff. So yes, yep.
Again, I've been listening to the scanner and I've been listening to them do it.
Yes.
I was the scanner too.
I don't.
I learned from somebody.
Yes, you did. It's in your blood.
The only question I have, I just wanna confirm on, when we do discuss revenue, we will, have the ability to see what's collected. I know line 93 is the collection cost.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I remember being able to see what we collect for ambulance fees, and I just wanted to ensure that. Okay.
The collection cost is for ambulance bills that are referred to the Thomas Agency for collection.
Oh, I see.
That's what it is. The collection cost isn't the cost of the staff person in the town office that
Right.
does the ambulance billing. That's,
Where does that come?
You know where I'm going.
it's just under
Administration.
admin. That's what it is.
Anything else on fire EMS? All right. We shall proceed to police, page 33.
Again, I will go down through these, I will not cover, unless you wanna discuss the 0%, those are lines that have been consistent, so we left them the same, so. In the police department, in the 01 and the 02 line, you'll see the increases there, is from proposed wages. Union negotiations, and 02 goes with that as far as overtime. The one thing we did cut out of that line, and I told you last year that we were looking at doing this, is a police buyback program. Fortunately, but unfortunately, when we have lost so many people and then gained people, I wanna say this nicely, and buying and selling police officers is up that account beyond what our goal was when Mayor Keene was sitting in here, so we did cut that $5,000 because we don't need it in there, and that account is fine for now. Knock on wood that we're not gonna have to use it anyway, so. Those-
Dr. Gagan, just
Yes.
the other thing that impacts the degree of increase is that, you remember last year, we were just completing filling positions,
Yes,
and the people that they were able to attract were certified officers with experience, which came in at higher rates of pay than the new officers
Right.
that we lost. So that 9% is deceptive, and
right,
we have lateral transfers for hiring, and so when you get someone with 5 or 10 years of experience who's a blueprint,
right,
and you are replacing somebody who
had a year or
went
two,
through training
right,
and they had a year, the rate difference is why that percentage increase in this line item looks larger. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no,
but
you're
that-
fine, absolutely, absolutely.
That was,
She's
that's a
correct.
component to that.
Unfortunately, last year, you know that we had 3 or 4 in, 3 or 4 out, and as a result of that, people leaving with a year or two here and replacing them with 5 or 10-year people, comes with a cost, so. And then the 02 line, the only other note that I have is that we did decrease the K-9 hours after calculating the actual hours, that we looked at there, so that did save a little bit there, even though it was 7.28%.
Can you explain that? You did decrease the K-9 hours for that you were deploying?
Not deployment, just overall hours with training and the law training and all that stuff that he has to do. When we were calculating the hours, we came up with a lower number actually after doing it for a few years.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were a little bit above the first year where we should have been, as opposed to what he was actually doing for training and grooming hours that we have to pay by law and everything. When we looked at it and added it up, it was a little bit less.
Director, which line, didn't Axel need some dental work and things like that? Which
Yes, that's
line-
covered. We have insurance, full insurance on him. Believe it or not, that's one thing I did purchase when she allowed us to get the dog. He has full dental insurance and health insurance, yeah.
Axel's doing better than us.
Well, he Axel does very well, and I am tight with money, but didn't want to do it, but now I'm very glad that we did it
That
because
would've been
root canals on
expensive.
dogs are very expensive.
That's why I asked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that was covered under insurance.
thanks.
Moving down the list to the 03 account, 04, excuse me. The proposed increase there is due to, again, proposed wage increases added and the added new officer from last year that we're catching up on this year, so that hopefully is better next year when we're up to par with the number of officers we have. And we did add in the sergeant last year. The 06 account is our animal control account. That includes, that looks like a larger number, but that includes a step raise of 2 years along with a proposed wage increase for the animal control officer. So that's why that's a little bit more, because of the step raise. She has actually been with us going on 2 years coming up. So the 24 account training expense, you're gonna see it's like $1,000 increase. 25% looks like a lot, and 1,000 is a lot, but that's just basically due to tuition increases. All the trainings that we're going to seem to be going up. Some of them are really going up, and we're not going to them, but that's another story. The 41 account, which is a small equipment purchase account, that increase is due to the extra person, initial issued equipment. We did actually put drug testing in there. I'll explain that in a second. We moved one account for our watch guard cameras that we have in every cruiser. And there's a 5-year plan to this line from equipment, which was 51. The drug testing, some of you are familiar with, some of you aren't. I know Mr. Bishop is familiar with this because we have legislation that he has worked on with us, and thank you for that. That long story short is that when we have a drug case, we have to have the drugs tested. Years ago, when we had those drugs tested and we went to trial and we won, we could ask for restitution for those drugs. That no longer exists. So if we have a drug case, not only do we have to have the drugs tested and pay for it, we cannot ask for any of that money back. And this will make no sense to you, and it shouldn't. Because if you go to court and you're found guilty and get a $1,000 fine, the state of Maine gets the $1,000 and the town of Bucksport pays $500 to have the drugs tested.
And so the state gives us half of that?
No, we don't get anything. But we're hoping that the legislation, which is going very well at this point, will go through so we can go back to saying, okay, Sean Gagan was convicted of drugs. Here's your $1,000 fine, plus we need $500 restitution from him for the drug testing. That's the way it always used to be. So we've added that line in there because we have to pay it now when we didn't have any money to pay for it. Next line, the 51 account, that increase is due to the additional cruiser. Additional costs and fees along with the extended warranties on our computers that we have in the cruisers that we got through the grant through Firehouse Subs years ago. Those have worked out very well. We've had very few problems with those, but the ones that we have had where we've had this, they have taken care of immediately. So that is going very well. Heating fuel, you went over that with the town manager. That is determined by the town, along with fuel for vehicles, and the miscellaneous was 0. So the bottom proposed amount for police was 8.9% at this point.
Questions for the director on the police budget?
I'm just curious of the impact of, and just coming from no knowledge of this line item, the investigation salary, what would be the impact of not having a budget line for that?
That's a hit or miss. It depends on the number of cases that we have, and those we use that for major cases, felony cases that are going to take a lot of time. So it's kind of, we hope not to use that money. And I don't have the average rate in front of me as to what we've used over the years.
I mean, no increase, sorry, that came out incorrect, and I'm not like.
Not having it
keeping
at
that
all.
flat, yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have it, it would have to come out of the O2 line, for which we put it in there just due to the major cases, and those can, once you start into one.
Officers training for this kind of,
I didn't hear what you
isn't
said.
Chris Sergeant, isn't officer, who is it in the department that's currently sort of your specialist in this area.
We had Officer Coco and he left. Officer Sergeant has been doing some cases. He just went to negotiator school,
That's,
but
that's
yeah,
what I
hostage
thought it
negotiating.
was Officer Sergeant.
So,
Yeah,
um,
taking on that role in the department.
I was mostly asking not to eliminate it, just I was curious if there's an impact of not increasing it.
I think we can work our way through that between the two lines, actually, yeah. Yes, sir.
Back to a question and a comment. The question is, on animal control.
Yep.
Going down the same course we did, chatting about Orland, and we're collecting animals now from Waldo, Penobscot, and Hancock County, the different municipalities out there. We've got a wage increase, we have a vehicle she uses, takes fuel, et cetera. Do we currently have a formula, or can we look at what our rates should be for these municipalities that we're serving?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
It's a per capita basis for which we can look at it. Some, I'm not sure if it's this year, but that's up to
Okey-doke.
these two that, yes and yes is the
And,
answer.
the other thought I had is, along my career, at one point I lived in a township down in Pennsylvania. It was a remote township, and for fire and EMS, they went to one municipality and mutual aid, and then for police services, they went to the nearby city. And they provided an officer, one officer, 24/7. And here we are in Verona. It seems every time we come to a town council meeting, this month, we've got 3 calls to Verona Island. If it would make sense to, now that we already have an existing relationship for fire and EMS, to extend that over to police. The advantage to them would be, yes, they'd be paying for an officer and a vehicle, but they now could call Bucksport Dispatch, have a speedier response for general, in addition to the special circumstances and so forth. Anyway, it's just as a source of revenue to any.
And we have discussed that for a number of years now. I have had meetings with them over the last, not few years, but 15, 20 years ago. At the time, they were not interested due to the cost, like you just said, but I know that DC Winchester has been approached by members over there, their town committees, and they are still, there's nothing in stone at all. It's just them approaching him to talk to him about possibilities. That's it. Nothing more than that.
In that case, do we get anything reciprocal back from Waldo County Sheriff?
We do not.
No?
We do not. And we have, our agreements are actually with the town of Verona and the town of Orland. Our MOUs are with the towns, not with the departments. And those are very strict to the point of the calls that you're seeing are just short of life and death calls where somebody needs help or an officer needs help.
Yeah.
Recently, within the last 3 to 5 years, we put the ambulance onto Orland because when I first did that MOU with your dad and stuff, we weren't able to cover our ambulance for some reason, so we straightened that out, or it might have been Verona or vice versa. So right now, if our ambulance goes and they don't have law enforcement, in which a lot of times they're an hour out, we'll go. But in every MOU with the towns of Verona and Orland, we get back as soon as possible. Like, once it's done, you get back, so. But it is a discussion that's been had over the years, and there's
It was
still
just
not discussions going on,
Just talking
but
out
talk.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Phones, telephones, hotspot, etc. Several years ago, you gave me 2 cell phones, and we went for a ride and tried to figure out which one had the best service for the best price. When was the last time that was done?
We are still working on that with IT currently, and I think that you will see us possibly, he's still discussing it with me, changing companies maybe coming up because of better coverage. So that is something that's talked about monthly, really. Yep.
Additional questions? Dispatch.
Going down through, starting with the 01 line. That is due to proposed wage increases. We have a new supervisor's rate that was approved last year and step raises for the current dispatchers. The 02 line, the overtime line, that is a 4 to 5 year average that was used there. The 03 line is an average. There's a small decrease in the dues and travel because that is not used a lot by them, so that was decreased a little bit. Office supplies is an increase proposed there. Police publications come out of that. It's been there for years. It's always come out of office supplies. Those have increased a little bit, and computer virus protection that the IT has highly recommended that we update soon was put in there. So the 51 account, equipment maintenance and repairs, one copier was removed from there. It was put into another budget line with a small increase in this line and a small increase in the other line. We had 2 copiers in 2 different places, and so we're trying to clean that up a little bit. Telephone is a small decrease from last year. That's just was evaluated and actually brought together by the finance director as to what we really pay and don't pay, so. And that is a proposed 9.95%.
Questions on dispatch? Okay. Public safety building.
Public safety building, the 01 account, regular payroll, that is for our custodian. You will see a proposed 100% decrease in that. And I won't get into that more than I think it has to do with the maintenance position and what the job description is gonna be for that. So if that goes through, then we would probably not need that position. The 32 account, there's a small increase there. The Spillman computer aided dispatch system is in that line. There's a small increase there. That's, and the other copier cost is put into that line. The 52 account building maintenance and repair, this increase is due to the average of that building that was looked at over the last few years. You'll see a small decrease proposed on the telephones and internet due to the average. And then you get into the things that you spoke with Town Manager Lasard about. Heating fuel, electricity, water, those are all averaged by the town. All the rest of them. So it's a proposed decrease of 10.89%.
Nice work.
Questions? All right. Next on the agenda is public utilities.
Public utilities, I have that here somewhere, I think. Jacob can, yeah. No, you, no, I can if you want me to. I did study it.
This is a small budget that covers our streetlights and our public fire protection or hydrant rental. A very small 1% reduction in the streetlights as that was trending lower this year as far as our monthly bills were concerned. And the hydrant rental, that rate is established by Maine Water. And they were calling for a 3% increase for that, so.
Gotta ask Jacob, because it's killing me, the curiosity. On the streetlights, how does the billing work? Because June is the highest month. And June happens to be the longest days.
Doesn't make
So,
much sense, does
No,
it?
I'm dying to know
I
if
think
you know
they're-
how that, why that is.
Waterfront.
It could, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. It could be
The rates at that time?
The streetlights aren't the waterfront walkway, those are a different account. Yes. The,
I would
this
think,
was June of last year.
Oh, it could just be the rates themselves.
I think it's the
Okay,
rates.
Of course, I had to make it complicated.
But even the winter
Yeah.
ones don't really make.
Well, there is that, right, November and
The
December.
fluctuations
yeah.
aren't quite where they should be with daylight.
Well,
Good observation.
our
I was just curious how the
rates,
billing works.
these are actual numbers, these
Okay.
are what our bills actually were, these weren't guesses. They're, so
I
it's,
assume, so it's gotta be rate driven. Yeah, what I
Yeah.
wrote down is how does this billing work? Okay, so yeah.
well, our streetlights are now under Constellation, right, Rachel? Is that the rate for?
Yes.
The rates for Constellation changed in December of this past year. So the trending down, yeah.
We can certainly-
See,
Yeah.
they went down. June is an anomaly, but
we can
that
certainly look
rate
at that.
went down.
I'm just curious, yep. I had to know.
I thought the same thing as I was putting this together.
Perfect.
No, so-
Any other oddball
And we
questions on
went, but
that?
I will remind you that we went to LED streetlight contract with Central Maine Power because the budget for streetlights, once upon a time, was in excess of $50,000 a year.
Right.
So, this has, the installation of LEDs has made a difference in this billing.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Back to our Director with Public Safety Administration.
That is a very short one. The only proposed increase is to salaries, and I did cut the chaplain hours back because we weren't using as much as we thought we would be, which isn't a bad thing.
Questions there?
You still have a take-home vehicle.
I do.
You still have police equipment in it. You still have fire equipment in it.
I do.
You still respond and answer the phone at all hours of the night.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
He makes calls too.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yes, I do.
Anything else before we? Awesome. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
I believe the last thing we are talking about this evening is on page 69, and it's debt service.
Debt service. So the 92 line, sorry, that is your debt service payment for the sewer concentrator facility, which is located just beyond the Verona Bridge. That's an amount that was determined, I think, many years ago when this was first done, that this was the amount that would be appropriated yearly through the operating budget to offset that debt. The 93 line is the road bonds that we did a few years ago. A slight increase there only because I'm not sure it was budgeted for quite correctly last year. You could see we're already at 509,000 this year and it's budgeted for 449. So just getting that number to be more accurate there. And the TAN interest is new for this year. As you know, we're taking out tax anticipation notes now, and there's interest to pay on those. And so this is 6 months worth of interest.
I hate to ask, what page are you on? I lost you.
70.
70. Okay.
69.
69 and 70. Sorry about that.
All right, thank you.
Questions?
How many years we have left on the road bond? 2?
That was a, you know, Rachel?
One's 3 and one's, there were 7-year bonds, 7-year notes. One was taken 1 year and then the second one was taken the next year or 2
Yeah, I
years
think 2
later.
years
So I
after.
think one has 3 and one has 4. It's something like that. I'll have to look to make sure, but I think one is 3
Just
and
in
one is
general,
4.
we'll be looking at this kind of number for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, it was a 7-year payback.
Okay.
One was taken, I think, in 22
22.
and one in 23 or
Yeah.
one in 21 and 22. I get that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Any questions on anything else before we move to the last item on the agenda? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
I'll remind you that our next meeting, I believe, is